Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Sub Vaishnav Jai Shri Krishna. Day 73 of the readings of the Dosa Bhavan 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji, and commencing where we left off yesterday, Varta 52, the story of the Seth from Rajnagar, Bhav Prakash. A question arises here as to why the Vaishnavas insisted on restoring the upper ras, even when Sri Thakurji said that his true form is love. Why did they not go along with the Lord's word? The answer given here is that this couple were disciples of Sri Acharyaji. A disciple must follow the rules of their guru. Therefore, to follow Sri Acharyaji's instructions is the way to please him. The rule here is that when you are aware of it, then the aparas can be spoilt. There is no fault if you are innocently unaware. Now that they had become aware of the misconduct, then the aparas was damaged. Sri Thakurji goes along with Sri Acharyaji's rules. Therefore, a Vaishnava must serve in the way that Sri Acharyaji teaches, and Sri Thakurji will be happy thereby. Sri Thakurji said, "At that time, nothing can get polluted when my love form is manifested." So at that time, nothing did. But now that absorption in love is not present, for they had realized the mistake. The pollution can occur when there is knowledge of it. Sri Thakurji had made this statement in order to test them, to see whether they acted according to his word or kept the rules of Sri Acharyaji. These two Vaishnavas had firm faith in Sri Acharyaji's teachings, and therefore they considered that the aparas had been compromised. Sri Thakurji was very happy with them. Part 1 continued. On this side, the four Vaishnavas arose on Goghat just less than an hour before sunrise and proceeded to Gokul. They arrived in Gokul about 5 hours later. Sri Gosaiji had come to Sri Thakurani Ghat to perform his Sandhya prayers after making the lunchtime offerings to Sri Navaneet Priyaji. The four Vaishnavas came to him and bowed down to him, but Sri Gosaiji sat with his back turned to them. Bhav Prakash, Sri Gosaiji's back signifies the state of Bahir Mukata, turning the face away from the Lord. When he sat with his back facing them, it told them that they had turned of their faces away from and thus offended the Lord. Part 1 continued. The four Vaishnavas asked Sri Gosaiji, "What offence have we committed? We went to Agra and met those Vaishnavas." Hearing these words, Sri Gosaiji was very angry and said, "I did not send you there for you to judge their actions. If you had stayed there for the 3 or 4 days that I had recommended, then you would have seen the love in their hearts. You did the opposite and have offended them. That is why their Sri Thakurji did not allow you his sight. To this moment neither of them has eaten, and they are both very distressed. This makes my heart heavy with grief." Hearing this, the four Vaishnavas bowed low to him and went back to Agra. They spent that night in Goghat and did not eat anything. They spoke amongst themselves, saying, "Our intelligence is rotten. Sri Gosaiji sent us there for a purpose, and we did not really believe his words." As soon as morning came, they got up and continued their journey. They arrived at the home of the Brahmin husband and wife. The wife had bathed and was cooking the lunchtime offerings. The husband made the offerings after completing the Lord's adornment. He came outside and sat down. When he saw the four Vaishnavas approaching, the husband ran to them and fell at their feet, asking forgiveness for his offensive behaviour. The four Vaishnavas replied that it was they who had been offensive. Sri Thakurji was displeased with us and did not even let us have his holy sight. Sri Gosaiji would also not let us see him. Please therefore forgive our great offence. Please tell us what to do. We will do whatever you say. Hearing these words, the Brahmin Vaishnava's heart overflowed. He said, "O Vaishnavas, please sit down. The Lord himself will solve everything." He said that he had made the water hot and invited them to bathe. The Brahmin Vaishnava assisted the four of them in bathing. They all then performed their daily rituals. The wife then came out of the temple after making the offerings. Seeing the four Vaishnavas, she greeted them with the Lord's name and humbly asked them to forgive her offence. She said, "I have fallen into this world of birth and death and am full of faults." Hearing her words, the four Vaishnavas said, "You are most praiseworthy, as is your belief, and your path are of the highest description. Even Sri Gosaiji praises you, but we failed to recognize your true form. That is why we have suffered such sadness." Bhav Prakash. This Brahman Vaishnava is Mridu Bhashani in the eternal Leela. His wife is Komalangi. They are both Shruti Rupa Gopis. These four Vaishnavas are a pair of Sakhis to each of those two. Their names are Hansagamani, Brahmanandini, Kokila and Kalavati. Hansagamani and Brahmanandini are Sakis of Mridubhashini, and Kokila and Kalawati are Sakis of Komalangi. Mridubhashini and Komalangi nourish the divine loving sentiments of these four. That is why Sri Gosaiji sent the four to the couple. At the first meeting, however, the four failed to recognize their true form and met with only disappointment. Thereafter, Sri Gosaiji had to be angry with them to facilitate the grace of their recognizing their true identity. By meeting them, they began to understand the couples and their true identity. Part 1 continued. When the time came, the wife accepted back the offerings as prasad, washed the Lord's hands and gave him sweetened palm leaves. When it was time for the Raj Bhogarti, the couple invited the four Vaishnavas to have the holy sight of their Sri Thakurji. He allowed them to have his sight, but did this with a degree of anger. The four of them felt somewhat fearful. Bhav Prakash. Why Sri Thakurji feels displeasure if anyone offends a Vaishnava? Surdasji has sung. Pada. I belong to my devotee and they to me. Listen, O Arjun, to my promise. This vow of mine I will never break. For the sake of my devotee, I forget all rules and run barefoot to them. Where my devotees are in trouble, I go there and release them. An enemy of my devotee is my own enemy, and I am driving this chariot of yours because I think of you as my devotee. A devotee's victory is also mine. Their loss is my loss. Surdas now sings in the words of the Lord, if anyone attacks my devotee, I slay them with my Sudarshan discus. The four Vaishnavas had offended the Brahmin Vaishnava couple. Therefore the Lord appeared to them in a form which made them fearful. However, they were the disciples of Sri Gosaiji, and he made them fearful in order that their previous mistake be rectified. This was all grace. Part 1 continued. The Lord then settled down to his afternoon rest. The four of them considered, the Lord granted us holy sight, but in a form full of anger. Let us now take instruction from this husband and wife and do whatever they say so that they might be appeased. The couple came to them and said, Please do as you wish. Would you like to have Anasakari or Sakari Prasad? Do not hesitate to express your wish. The four of them replied that they would like to take whatever had been offered to their Sri Thakurji and would like to accept the Sakari Prasad, that they had been relieved of their doubts. The couple fed them with both types of prasad, which the four of them happily accepted. Having eaten, they got up, washed their hands and mouths, and then accepted the sweetened palm leaves that the couple gave them. The couple came out of their seva to feed the cows, and then partook of prasad themselves before making arrangements for the four Vaishnavas to sit down and beginning to recount the Lord's pastimes. They stopped when it was time for the afternoon seva. When the afternoon and evening services had all been completed, the four Vaishnavas again partook of prasad. The husband and wife only ever ate once a day, so they did not partake again. All of them again discussed the Lord and his pastimes well into the night. They kept on with the satsang until the morning seva time. They spent 15 days in this very way. The four Vaishnavas felt the nectar of the Lord's love in every follicle of their bodies. They all bowed down to the couple and praised them, realizing that Sri Gosaiji had blessed them greatly to be such vessels of the Lord's bliss. Thereafter, when the four Vaishnavas went to have the holy sight of the Lord, he blessed them with his grace-filled glance. They experienced horripilation and settled down to his afternoon rest. The four of them took their leave of the husband and wife. The couple invited them to stay a few more days, saying, Vaishnavas like yourselves are very hard to find. Sri Gosaiji has blessed us by sending you to us. We have a good connection now. Otherwise it is very difficult to have the sight of such Vaishnavas. Hearing these words, the four Vaishnavas piped up. Once we left you very unhappy and Sri Gosaiji was very displeased with us. This time we need to be sure that you are happy before we can set off. The couple requested them to stay 3 more nights and they did so. On the 4th they had the holy sight of the Lord at the Raj Bhogarti and partook of the Mahaprasad. The couple approached them and they took their leave. The couple sent as much as they could in donation for Sri Gosaiji and asked the four to convey their prostrations to Sri Gosaiji and all his sons and to greet all the Vaishnavas there with the Lord's name. Please return to us soon. The couple set off with them for a little way, and when they reached the gate of Agra, the four Vaishnavas most humbly took their leave. The couple came home, and the four Vaishnavas returned to Gokul. They were so full of divine bliss that they could hardly walk. They reached Gokul in 12 days and arrived there at the time of the afternoon seva. Sri Gosaiji had awoken from his nap and was in his betak. He espied the four of them approaching, absorbed in the bliss of the Lord. Sri Gosaiji remarked to Chachaji, Harivamsh, "Oh Chachaji, these four have now experienced the true satsang of Vaishnavas. After this, the four came to Sri Gosaiji and, having bowed at his lotus feet, said, "O great Maharaj, those two Vaishnavas are exactly as you described. We were so ignorant that we only looked at their external behaviour. We offended them, and that made you displeased with us. Even their Thakurji Shri Madan Mohanji was so displeased that he would not grant us his holy sight. When the Vaishnavas were pleased then, so were Sri Thakurji and yourself. It is through your grace that we met these Vaishnavas." Hearing this, Sri Gosaiji remarked, "The Vaishnava couple make very nice seva. They never ever get involved in worldly affairs. They are forever immersed in the love of the Lord. They have learnt their unswerving devotion from Harivamsji. Without Vaishnavas, this path cannot establish itself in the heart." In this way, Sri Gosaiji praised the couple. Thus concludes Varta 52, the story of Seth from Rajnagar, the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace, and the husband and wife who were accomplished Vaishnavas. This tale is truly never-ending. Aaj ke Anand ki jai ho, sab Vaishnavan ko jai Shri Krishna, jai jai Shri Radhe.